15 Stoic Principles for Immediate Life. Progress. Stoic Philosophy. The hidden hand that guides your choices. Have you ever felt an invisible pull steering your decisions, making you question whether your choices are truly your own? Beneath the surface of daily interactions lies a subtle web of manipulation. Recognizing its threads could be the difference between living freely and being controlled without realizing it. Trust, the currency of connection. Imagine investing trust, your most precious currency, only to find it squandered. In a world where loyalty often wears a mask, how do you discern genuine allies from opportunists? The ancient Stoics offer timeless wisdom for protecting your heart and mind. The quiet power of discernment. Every relationship is a negotiation of invisible terms. What if you could read between the lines and see others' true intentions with clarity and strength? Armed with Stoic principles, you can reclaim your agency and cultivate bonds rooted in mutual respect and sincerity. Let us now dive into these 15 profound Stoic lessons that will transform how you perceive relationships and shield you from the subtle art of manipulation. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean. The waves move endlessly, shifting between calm serenity and crashing intensity. You cannot stop them. You cannot control their rhythm. But you can learn to sail to navigate their unpredictability with skill and presence. Life is no different. The world around us is in constant motion, filled with distractions, expectations, and forces is beyond our influence, yet amid the chaos we can cultivate mastery not by controlling everything, but by learning how to move through it with clarity, discipline, and resilience. This is the essence of Stoicism. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, were not mere philosophers sitting in distant towers contemplating abstract ideas. They were leaders, statesmen, and survivors of hardship, people who lived through war, exile, betrayal, and personal suffering, yet remained unshaken. Their principles were not just intellectual exercises. They were tools for enduring life's difficulties, for achieving peace of mind, even when everything seemed to be falling apart. And the most remarkable thing, these principles are not bound to ancient Rome or Greece. They are just as relevant now as they were 2,000 years ago. Perhaps even more so in today's world. We are drowning in excess, too much information, too many distractions, an overwhelming flood of demands pulling us in every direction. We chase after more success, more possessions, more approval, only to find ourselves exhausted and disconnected from what truly matters. But what if instead of doing more, we learned to do less but better? What if we stripped away the unnecessary, removed the distractions, and focused on the essentials? What if we applied the wisdom of the Stoics not just as an intellectual curiosity, but as a guide to immediate, tangible life progress? That is what this episode is about. 15 Stoic principles. Each one a practical key to living with greater purpose, resilience, and clarity. These are not just ideas to ponder. They are tools to act on. Starting now. Take a breath. Let go of what you cannot control. And let's begin. The modern world glorifies productivity. Yet few people stop to ask whether they are being productive in ways that actually matter. We fill our days with endless tasks, meetings, and notifications, mistaking movement for progress, activity for achievement. The Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less, or rather do what's essential." This isn't about laziness, it's about precision. Most of what we do is noise, habits we repeat without thinking, obligations we accept without questioning, distractions that drain us without adding value. We say yes too often, we divide our attention too thinly, and then we wonder why we feel stretched, scattered, and unfulfilled. Picture an archer drawing their bow. If they aim at everything, they hit nothing, but if they focus, steady their breath, and align with a single target, their chances of success increase exponentially. The same applies to life. The key is not to do more, it's to do less with greater intention each morning. Instead of drowning in a long list of tasks, ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do today that will have the greatest impact? Identify it, protect it from distractions, commit to it fully, and say no ruthlessly to what does not serve it. Because every yes to the trivial is a no to the meaningful. Every moment spent on the unnecessary is a moment stolen from what truly matters. We often believe that busyness equates to importance, that if we are constantly in motion, we must be getting somewhere. But movement without direction is just wasted energy. The Stoics remind us that a life well lived is not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things and doing them well. Like a sculptor drilling away at a block of marble. The masterpiece of your life is not built by adding more, but by removing everything that does not belong. What remains is clarity. What remains is excellence. A ship without an anchor drifts aimlessly, vulnerable to every change in the wind and tide. Without something to hold it steady, it has no control over where it ends up. Life is much the same. Without a core philosophy, a set of guiding principles, we are pulled in every direction, influenced by fleeting trends, external pressures, and the expectations of others. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that having a clear philosophical anchor, a personal framework for understanding the world, was essential to living with stability and purpose. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the world, wrote to himself as a student of philosophy, constantly reminding himself of the principles that grounded him. His anchor was the belief that virtue, acting with wisdom, justice, courage, and discipline was the highest good no matter what chaos surrounded him. This belief kept him steady. Seneca, on the other hand, anchored himself in the idea that time was our most precious resource, and wasting it was the greatest mistake a person could make. Epictetus, a former slave, found his anchor in the realization that while we do not control what happens to us, we always control how we respond. Each of them lived vastly different lives, yet they all found strength in defining their own philosophy and living by it. Most people never take the time to ask themselves, what do I truly believe? What values guide my decisions? What principles do I stand by even when things get difficult? Instead, they absorb whatever influences surround them, the culture, the media, the opinions of those closest to them. Without realizing it, they become reactive rather than deliberate, floating through life without a solid foundation. But there is a simple exercise that can change this. Take a moment to reflect on the moments in your life when you felt most clear, most sure of yourself, most aligned with something deeper. What was driving you in those moments? What core belief was shaping your actions? That is your anchor, and once you define it, everything else becomes easier. Decisions become clearer. Distractions lose their power. Challenges become tests of character rather than source of suffering. A person with a strong philosophical anchor is not shaken easily. They do not seek approval from the world, because they already know what they stand for. They do not panic in the face of uncertainty because they have something solid to hold on to. And when the storms of life inevitably come, they may bend, but they do not break, because no matter how strong the winds, the anchor holds a traveler burdened by the weight of unnecessary luggage, moves slowly, struggling under the load of things they don't need. The same is true for the mind. Most of our suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from the way we respond to them. We carry too much, holding on to worries about the future, regrets about the past, frustrations about things beyond our influence. The Stoics teach us one of the most liberating principles of all: focus only on what you can control and let go of everything else. Epictetus, who was born a slave and later became one of the most respected Stoic teachers, put it simply: some things are within our power, while others are not. The distinction is everything. Your thoughts, your actions, your effort, your attitude. These Are within your control the opinions of others, the past, the randomness of the world? These are not yet. Most people live as if the opposite were true, spending endless energy trying to change what is unchangeable, worrying about things that are entirely outside their influence, while neglecting the one thing they do have power over themselves. Think about how much frustration comes from this mistake. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you spend the next 10 minutes replaying the moment. In your mind, cursing their rudeness. A colleague gets undeserved praise at work and resentment eats away at you. Even though their success has no impact on your own. You set a goal, but external obstacles arise. And instead of adapting, you feel defeated. In every one of these cases, the suffering does not come from the event itself, but from resistance, the refusal to accept what is beyond your control. The Stoics believed that true power comes not from controlling the world, but from mastering your own responses to it. This doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean passively accepting everything that happens. It means redirecting your energy to where it actually matters, instead of trying to control people. Focus on controlling your reactions to them instead of fearing failure. Focus on giving your best effort instead of resisting reality. Focus on adapting to. A person who understands this principle becomes unshakable. They don't waste energy on anger over the inevitable or despair over what they cannot change. They move forward calmly and deliberately, focusing only on what is truly theirs to shape. It's like standing in the middle of a storm. You cannot stop the wind, you cannot command the rain, but you can stand firm. You can adjust your course and you can keep moving forward. That is real strength. That is Stoicism in action. Progress is not about how much effort you exert, it's about where you direct it. Most people work hard, but few work wisely. They push themselves in every direction, pouring energy into time tasks that don't truly matter. Mistaking movement for progress, the Stoics understood that effort alone is not enough. What matters is whether that effort is aimed at something meaningful. Double your effort where it matters and let go of what doesn't. Seneca warned against wasting life on trivial pursuits, reminding us that time is the one resource we can never recover. People exhaust themselves chasing approval, engaging in arguments that lead nowhere or perfecting things that don't actually improve their lives. They spread themselves thin, saying yes to everything, trying to keep up with expectations that aren't even their own, and in the end they look back and wonder where all their time went. The Stoic approach is different. Instead of trying to do everything, they focus on the essential few things that create real impact. Instead of running faster in every direction, they choose their path deliberately and walk it with intention. Think about the things that demand your energy every day. Some of them, if you ignored them completely, would make no difference to your life, but others, the important ones, are being neglected, buried under distractions. The relationships that truly matter, the skills that would make a lasting impact, the habits that could change everything if only they were given the attention they deserve. The question is simple. Are you working hard at what actually matters, or just working hard? Imagine a person frantically trying to fill a leaking bucket with water, working faster and faster to keep it full. But no matter how hard they try, the water escapes, lost through cracks that they refuse to fix. This is how most people live, pushing harder instead of pausing to ask whether their effort is being used effectively. The solution is not to do more, but to focus more. If something is unimportant, let it go. If something is essential, give it everything. Recognize where your energy is wasted and then take all that effort and redirect it toward what truly matters. Nothing in life is unlimited. Not time, not energy, not focus. If you waste it on things that do not serve you, you will have nothing left for the things that do. But if you channel it wisely with clarity and precision, you will accomplish more with half the effort. The difference between those who struggle and those who thrive is not the amount of work they do, but the wisdom to know where to place their effort. Work hard, but only on what deserves it. Most people move through life hoping for the best. assuming things will go as planned and feeling frustrated. When obstacles inevitably appear, the Stoics took the opposite approach. Instead of being surprised by difficulties, they prepared for them. They practiced a mental exercise called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They visualized obstacles before they happened, not to dwell on negativity, but to be ready, composed, and unshaken when adversity came. To expect challenges is not to invite them. It is to disarm them. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself daily that he would encounter selfishness, dishonesty, arrogance, and ignorance. He did not hope for a world without such things. He simply accepted their presence as part of reality. Seneca advised his students to imagine losing everything they had, not to cause fear, but to lessen attachment and increase gratitude. If we have already accepted the worst-case scenario in our minds, then when life throws difficulties our way, we are not caught off guard. We meet them with calm readiness. Most suffering comes not from hardship itself, but from resistance, expecting things to go one way and feeling betrayed when they don't. A person who assumes everything will go smoothly is constantly frustrated, thrown off balance by even the smallest disruption. But a person who has already considered what could go wrong moves through life differently. They are not naive, they are not fragile. They walk into every situation prepared. Think about how often people let minor inconveniences ruin their day. A delayed flight, a rude comment, an unexpected expense, things that in the grand scheme are trivial, yet they cause frustration because they weren't anticipated. But what if instead of hoping that nothing would go wrong, you started each day with the assumption that something probably would not, in a pessimistic way, but in a way that makes you resilient when traffic is worse than expected? You remain calm when someone disappoints you. You are not surprised when your plans change. You adapt immediately. You don't waste time resisting reality. You move with it. This principle is not just about small inconveniences, it applies to life's greatest challenges as well. Imagine a person who never considers that they might lose their job, face illness, or experience failure when it happens. They fall apart, but a Stoic, having already envisioned such difficulties, responds with clarity and strength. They have already rehearsed their actions, already accepted that life is unpredictable, and instead of breaking, they adjust. The world does not promise you an easy path. The question is not whether obstacles will come, but whether we will be ready when they do. By visualizing difficulties before they happen, we strip them of their power. They no longer shock us, no longer throw us into emotional turmoil. We meet them with calm, with strategy, with the quiet confidence that whatever comes, we are prepared, and in that preparation we find peace. Most people wake up and step into their day without a plan, reacting to whatever comes their way. They check their phones first thing in the morning, letting external demands dictate their focus. They rush from one task to the next, constantly adjusting to new urgencies, feeling overwhelmed, yet unsure where their time went. The Stoics had a different approach. Instead of waiting for life to impose its chaos, they imposed order. They believed that a well-lived day is one that is deliberate, not accidental. This is why they practiced the habit of planning their day the night before. Marcus Aurelius would begin his mornings by reflecting on what lay ahead, mentally preparing himself for the challenges and responsibilities of the day. Seneca advised setting aside time in the evening to review what had been done well, what had been wasted, and what could be improved. This simple act, thinking ahead, reviewing and adjusting, turns life from something that just happens to us into something we actively shape. A person who plans in advance is never caught completely off guard. They move with purpose. They decide what matters before the world decides for them. It's a simple habit, but its effects are profound. When you take just 5 or 10 minutes before bed to map out the next day, you wake up with it. Instead of confusion, you already know. your priorities, you don't waste time wondering what to do next or getting lost in distractions. The day begins not with noise but with focus. But there's another reason this practice is powerful. When we don't set our intentions in advance, we are far more likely to fall into reactive mode, spending our time responding to other people's priorities instead of our own. The Stoics understood that true freedom is not found in doing whatever comes up. It is found in choosing your direction deliberately. When you plan ahead, you regain control. You decide how your energy will be spent rather than letting the day scatter it in 100 directions. Some might argue that life is unpredictable, that plans often change. That's true. The Stoics never said we should cling rigidly to our plans, only that we should start with intention. A plan is a guide, not a prison. If the day unfolds differently than expected, we adapt, but we do so from a place of clarity, not chaos. There is a calm confidence in knowing that when tomorrow comes, you won't be scrambling to catch up. You won't be swept into distraction before you've even had a chance to focus. You will wake up with direction, and with that direction, you will move through the day with purpose, not just momentum. There is a moment just before action where hesitation creeps in. A thought arises. What if this doesn't work? What if I fail? And suddenly what should have been a simple decision turns into an endless internal debate. The Stoics understood that overthinking is the enemy of action. It paralyzes, delays, and drains energy that should be spent doing rather than doubting. Their solution was simple. Take action without overthinking. Epictetus reminded his students that we do not control outcomes, only effort. If a decision is within your power and aligns with reason, then act. Do not waste time seeking perfect certainty, because it does not exist. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of the fears that hold us back, whether in work relationships or personal goals, are creations of the mind. We imagine failure so vividly that we convince ourselves it's real before we've even tried. We play out worst-case scenarios, making them seem inevitable. But when we actually take the leap, we often realize the fear was exaggerated, that the thing we dreaded was far less difficult than our thoughts made it seem. Think of how many opportunities are lost to hesitation. A person wants to start a new habit but tells themselves they need to wait for the right time. Another has an idea but convinces themselves they need more preparation. Someone hesitates to speak up, to take a chance, to step forward. Always waiting and always delaying, but life does not wait. The difference between those who make progress and those who remain stuck is not intelligence or talent. It is action. This doesn't mean acting recklessly. The Stoics were not impulsive. They believed in deliberate action, thinking just enough to ensure wisdom, but never so much that it leads to paralysis. The key is to recognize when thought becomes an obstacle, rather than a tool. There is a time to analyze, to weigh options carefully. But once a decision is clear, hesitation serves no purpose. A Stoic moves forward. They trust in their ability to adapt, knowing that even if things don't go as planned, they will learn, adjust, and continue. A person who waits until they feel completely ready will wait forever. The perfect moment never arrives. The perfect plan never materializes. The only way to move forward is to move. Act. Adjust. Repeat. The mind can always invent reasons to delay. But at some point, thinking must give way to doing, and when that moment comes, the Stoic does not hesitate. They simply begin. Comparison is a silent thief. It takes what should be a moment of personal satisfaction and turns it into doubt. A person achieves something they once dreamed of, but instead of feeling pride, they look sideways at someone who's done more, achieved faster, gone further, and suddenly what once felt like progress now feels like inadequacy. The Stoics understood this trap well. Stay in your own lane. Ignore comparisons. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to waste time worrying about what others were doing. He knew that every person walks their own path, shaped by different circumstances, abilities, and choices. What good is it to compare your journey to someone else's, when no two people begin from the same place? Epictetus took it further, saying that the opinions and successes of others should not concern us at all. He taught that happiness comes not from how we measure up to others, but from how well we live according to our own principles. Comparison is a losing game because there is no finish line. No matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone ahead of you in some way, someone richer, smarter, stronger, more accomplished. And if your sense of self-worth depends on being ahead of others, then peace will always be just out of reach. Worse still, comparison distracts from what actually matters. Instead of focusing on your own growth, you focus on someone else's instead of improving at your own pace. You measure yourself against a standard that was never meant for you. A runner who constantly looks at the lanes beside them loses speed, loses focus, and risks stumbling. The same is true in life. The person who is consumed by what others are doing is not fully present in their own work. They are chasing an illusion, seeking validation from an ever-moving target. But when you stay in your lane, when you measure progress only against your past self, you move forward with clarity, free from the weight of comparison. The truth is, you are not in competition with anyone but yourself. The only question that matters is, are you better today than you were yesterday? If the answer is yes, then you are winning. The world will always be full of people on different journeys, moving at different speeds. But none of that has anything to do with you. Let others walk their path, and you walk yours. Stay in your own lane. Keep moving forward. That is enough. Life is filled with half-hearted efforts, people who start but never finish, who commit but with hesitation, who pursue goals while leaving the door open for an easy exit. The Stoics had no patience for this kind of wavering. They believed that if something is worth doing, it is worth committing to fully. And if it is not worth full commitment, it is not worth doing at all. Seneca warned against the dangers of scattered focus, reminding us that a divided mind accomplishes little. A person who's only half committed to their work, their relationships, or their personal growth will always feel frustrated, always feel that something is missing. When we do things reluctantly, hesitantly, we rob ourselves of the full experience. Imagine an athlete who steps onto the field but plays cautiously, afraid of injury. They do not protect themselves. They weaken themselves. Or think of someone who says they want to write a book, start a business, or change their life, yet only gives a fraction of their effort. They get a fraction of the results the Stoics believed in. Wholehearted action, fully showing up, fully engaging, fully living. This doesn't mean recklessness. It doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It means that once a decision is made, once a path is chosen, there is no hesitation, no second guessing to do something. Halfway is to waste time. The question is simple. Are you in or are you out? If it matters, then give it everything. If it doesn't, walk away without regret. Most dissatisfaction in life comes from this in-between state: people who want results without full effort, who want meaning without deep commitment. But there is no full fulfillment in half measures. The Stoic way is clear. Choose, deliberately act decisively, and once you commit, do so without reservation. If you train with intensity. If you work with focus. If you love completely. Whatever you do, do it fully, because a life lived halfway is not truly lived at. All distractions is the enemy of depth. The modern world is designed to pull our attention in 1,000 directions at once. Notifications, emails, endless streams of information, each demanding a fraction of our focus until nothing meaningful remains. The Stoics understood that a scattered mind leads to a scattered life. To live with purpose, to achieve mastery, to experience true presence, one must learn to eliminate distractions. Ruthlessly, Seneca warned that life is not short. We just waste much of it, and what is more wasteful than constant interruption? A person who allows distractions to dictate their day is not truly in control of their own time. They are reactive, constantly shifting from one minor urgency to the next, never diving deep enough into anything to create real progress. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, trained himself to focus only on what was essential. He reminded himself daily that most things do not matter, that most noise is irrelevant, and that clarity comes not from doing more, but from removing the unnecessary. Imagine trying to sculpt a masterpiece while being interrupted every few minutes. Each time you regain focus, you must reorient yourself. Remember where you left off, rebuild the momentum you lost. This is what distractions do to the mind. They fracture attention, making even simple tasks feel difficult, making deep work almost impossible. The Stoics believed that attention is one of our most valuable resources, and like time once wasted, it cannot be reclaimed. But eliminating distractions is not just about turning off notifications or finding a quieter place to work. It is about a deeper discipline, the ability to decide what deserves your attention and what does not. It is recognizing that not everything requires a response, not every demand is urgent, and not every voice deserves to be heard. The ability to focus is the ability to filter, to say no to what does not serve you. A Stoic does not allow themselves to be pulled in every direction. They decide with intention where their mind will go. Most people live in a constant state of mental clutter, filling every spare moment with stimulation, scrolling, checking, reacting, never allowing their thoughts to settle, never experiencing real clarity. But true progress, true mastery, true peace come only when the mind is fully present, fully engaged, fully absorbed in what matters. Distraction is not just an inconvenience, it is a form of self-sabotage. The Stoic path is simple: remove what is unnecessary, protect your focus, and give your full attention only to what is truly worth it. Wisdom is not something we are born with. It is something we seek, something we cultivate. The Stoics understood that no one has all the answers. Not even the greatest minds. That is why they believed in a simple but powerful principle: learn from the wise. Both past and present life is too short to figure everything out on our own. The mistakes we make, the struggles we face, someone somewhere has already experienced them, already found a way through. But most people ignore this. They live as if they must navigate everything from scratch, as if history has nothing to teach them, as if the greatest thinkers, leaders, and survivors of the past are irrelevant to their modern struggles. The Stoics saw things differently. They believed that wisdom is everywhere, ready to be absorbed if we are humble enough to listen. Marcus Aurelius, though an emperor, did not assume he had all the answers. His meditations are filled with reflections on lessons learned from others, his teachers, his mentors, even those he disagreed with. Seneca constantly referenced older philosophers, drawing on their ideas, testing them, refining them. Epictetus, once a slave, built his entire philosophy around the idea that the key to freedom is learning to think clearly, and that requires learning from those who came before. They all understood that wisdom is a chain passed down through generations. To ignore it is to waste time relearning lessons that have already been taught. But learning from the wise does not mean blind obedience. It means seeking out those who have lived well, those who have struggled and overcome, those who have thought deeply, and using their knowledge as a foundation. It means reading great books, studying great minds, surrounding yourself with people who challenge and inspire you. Most importantly, it means recognizing that no matter how much you know, there is always more to learn. A person who refuses to learn from others is trapped within the limits of their own experience. But a person who seeks wisdom, wherever it can be found, who reads, who listens, who studies, expands their mind beyond what they could ever achieve alone. The greatest advantage we have over those who came before us is access to their knowledge. The question is, will we use it, or will we like? So, many before us make the mistake of thinking we must figure it all out alone. The wise do not claim to know everything. The wise continue to learn. Much of our frustration in life does not come from reality itself, but from the gap between reality and our expectations. We assume things will go a certain way, that people will behave as we hope, that our plans will unfold without disruption. And when they don't, we feel anger, disappointment, even despair. The Stoics understood this well. They believe that peace is not found in trying to force the world to match our expectations, but in adjusting our expectations to match reality. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he would encounter selfishness, ignorance, and injustice. He did not hope for a world without flaws. He prepared for the world as it is. Epictetus taught that suffering comes not from events but from our judgments about them. A flight is delayed. One person calmly accepts it. Another is furious. The event is the same. The difference is in expectation. The first person knew that delays happen. The second expected perfection. One remains at peace. The other suffers. We do this constantly. We expect traffic to be light, and when it isn't, we feel irritated. We expect others to understand us perfectly, and when they don't, we feel misunderstood. We expect that success will come quickly, and when it takes longer, we feel like failures. But now, none of these reactions are necessary. What if instead, we expected obstacles, expected imperfection, expected that things will not always go as planned? Then when difficulties arise, we are not shaken, we are ready. This does not mean lowering standards or abandoning ambition. It means seeing the world clearly, accepting that life is unpredictable, that people are flawed, that nothing is guaranteed. It means preparing the mind in advance so that when things do not go our way, we do not waste energy. Resisting what is. A person who expects reality to be different than it is will always be at war with life. But a person who aligns their expectations with reality moves through the world with calm, with resilience, with an understanding that things happen as they do, not as we wish. Imagine two people walking into a storm. One is angry at the rain, shouting at the clouds, demanding that the weather change. The other simply takes out an umbrella and keeps walking. The rain falls the same on both, but only one of them suffers. Life is the same way. The world will not bend to our expectations, but we can adjust our expectations to meet the world. And when we do, we find freedom. Most people rely on motivation to make progress in life. They wait until they feel inspired to act. And when that feeling fades, as it always does, they stop. They start new habits only to abandon them weeks later. They set goals but struggle to follow through. The Stoics knew that discipline is far more reliable than motivation. And the best way to ensure discipline is to build systems, not just habits. A habit is something you do. A system is something that ensures you keep doing it. A person who wakes up early only when they feel like it has a habit. A person who sets an alarm, places it across the room, and commits to a structured morning routine has a system. A person who exercises sporadically has a habit. A person who schedules workouts in advance, prepares their gear the night before, and has an accountability partner has a system. Habits rely on willpower, but willpower is limited. Systems remove the need for willpower. They make action automatic. Marcus Aurelius did not write in his journal whenever he felt inspired. He made it a daily practice. Seneca did not reflect on his life only when he had free time. He structured his evenings around self-examination. The great Stoics understood that if something is important, it must be woven into the fabric of life, not left to chance. Think about where you struggle with consistency. Is it in your health, your work, your learning? Instead of asking, how can I be more motivated? Ask, how can I design my life so that taking action becomes the default? A person who sets reminders, structures their environment, and removes unnecessary friction will achieve more with half the effort. A person who relies on fleeting bursts of motivation will always struggle. Success is not the result of occasional inspiration. It is the result of consistent action, repeated over time, made easier by thoughtful systems. If you want to make progress in anything, whether in your discipline, your focus, or your character, do not just build habits, build systems that make those habits inevitable. Excellence is not an accident. The people we surround ourselves with shape our thoughts, our standards, and ultimately, our lives. The Stoics understood that if you want to grow, if you want to elevate yourself, you must surround yourself with excellence. Seneca warned that we become like those we spend the most time with, that the influence of others seeps into us, without us even realizing it. If we are surrounded by people who complain, who make excuses, who drift through life without purpose, we will slowly, unconsciously adopt the same mindset. But if we choose to be in the company of those who push themselves, who think deeply, who strive for something greater, then we too will be pulled upward. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to learn from the best, whether from the philosophers he admired or the mentors who had shaped his thinking. He did not seek flattery or comfort. He sought truth, wisdom, and challenge. A person who surrounds themselves with those who demand more of them will always rise higher than someone who settles for mediocrity. This does not mean cutting off everyone who does not meet some impossible standard. It means being intentional. It means asking, do the people around me encourage growth or stagnation? Do they push me toward wisdom or distraction? Do they hold me to a higher standard or pull me into negativity? This principle applies not just to the people we know personally, but to the voices we allow into our minds. Minds, the books we read, the ideas we engage with, the content we consume. All of these shape us. If we spend our time absorbing trivialities, gossip, and distractions, our thinking will reflect that. But if we immerse ourselves in the works of great minds, in meaningful conversations, in lessons from those who have mastered their craft, we accelerate our own growth. Excellence is contagious, as mediocrity is. If you want to be better, place yourself among those who expect more, who challenge assumptions, who remind you of what is possible. Because in the end, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You rise to the level of your surroundings. Choose them wisely. Life does not move in straight lines. Plans unravel, circumstances shift. What once felt certain becomes uncertain. Most people resist this. They fight against change, clinging to how they think things should be, instead of adapting to how things are. The Stoics knew that rigidity leads to suffering while flexibility leads to strength. They believed in a simple but profound principle: flow with the current, adapt to life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that nature itself is in constant motion. The seasons change. Rivers carve new paths. The universe expands. Nothing is static. And yet we often expect life to be predictable, stable, under our control. But control is an illusion. The only real control we have is in how we respond. A rigid tree snaps in the storm while a flexible one bends and survives. A person who refuses to adapt, who insists that life must conform to their expectations, will always feel frustrated. But the one who adjusts, who moves with reality instead of against it, finds peace. This does not mean passivity. The Stoics were not fatalists. They did not believe in giving up or letting life push them aimlessly. They believed in acting with purpose while accepting what they could not change. If a door closes, they do not stand there pounding on it. They look for another. If a plan fails, they do not despair. They adjust. If circumstances shift, they shift with them, not losing sight of their principles but changing their approach as needed. Think about how much energy is wasted resisting what is, complaining about circumstances, wishing things were different, becoming angry at the uncontrollable. None of it changes is reality, but adaptation. Does a person who knows how to adjust? Who knows when to push forward and when to yield, moves through life with grace. While others struggle against it, the ocean does not fight the waves, it moves with them. The wind does not resist the mountains, it flows around them. A Stoic does not waste time, demanding that life be different. They see things as they are. Accept what must be accepted. Change what can be changed and keep moving forward. Because in the end, it is not the strongest who thrive, nor the most stubborn. It is those who know how to flow. Life is not something to be conquered. It is something to be navigated. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They knew that true strength does not come from control, but from clarity. That peace is not found in changing the world, but in mastering the self. That wisdom is not about knowing all the answers, but about asking the right questions. These 15 principles are not just ideas to admire, they are tools to live by. Do less but better. Focus only on what you can control. Commit fully or not at all. Learn from the wise. Adapt to life instead of resisting it. If these ideas remain words, nothing changes. But if they are practiced, if they become part of how you think, how you act, how you move through the world, then everything changes. The world around you will always be unpredictable. Challenges will come, people will disappoint, plans will fail, but none of that determines your path, only your response does. And if you respond with discipline, with wisdom, with presence, then, no matter what happens, you will not just endure. You will grow, you will move forward. You will live not as a leaf tossed by the wind, but as the one who decides where to go next. So as you step into the rest of your day, ask yourself, which of these principles will I apply right now? Because Stoicism is not about reading. It is about action. It is about living well even in the face of difficulty, and in the end, that is the only thing that truly matters. Conclusion. Building a fortress of self-respect. Every interaction is a step towards building or dismantling your fortress of self-worth. Guided by Stoic principles, you possess the wisdom to recognize manipulation, the courage to set boundaries, and the strength to foster genuine connections. Your peace of mind is the most valuable possession you own. Guard it fiercely and nurture relationships that honor it. Stay vigilant, stay wise, stay stoic.